Represent. Represent is synonymous with deception, fraud, harm, and counterfeit. Did you know that? Did you know that you can only represent a thing, a T-H-I-N-G, thing? An attorney's first duty is to the court, not to the client. And when you hire an attorney, you become a ward of the court. And what is a ward of the court? As an infant and a person of unsound mind. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. Have you ever hired an attorney to represent you? Stay tuned, guys. Stay tuned. Well, hello, guys. Welcome to another episode of the Trust Man channel. I'm your Trust Man, and I'm here to educate you about trust and also truth in law with no fake and no bullshit.
With a no fake and no bullshit.
Today, we're going to be talking about a very, very important topic. We're going to be talking about attorneys. Attorneys. Oh, I hate attorneys.
I hear you're one of the best lawyers. That's right. So how much do you charge?
I charge a flat rate of $10,000 to answer 3 questions.
Holy smokes, how come you're so expensive?
Because I'm really good. Now what's your 3rd question?
Well, guys, attorneys, woe unto you lawyers, woe unto you. Okay? Only one remedy for attorneys, and that is to quit being an attorney. Quit your bar membership, because attorneys are all part of a club of corruption. They can never bite the hand that feeds them. Never. Okay? We're going to get into that. Represent. Did you know that the word represent is synonymous with deception, fraud, harm, and counterfeit? Did you know that? It's true. I'm going to prove it to you. Represent is synonymous with, number 1, deception, fraud, gaining advantage of, bringing harm, and counterfeit. Next time you see the word represent, that's what it means. Next time you go and think about hiring an attorney to represent you, that's what you're asking him or giving him permission to do to you, is to counterfeit you, to harm you. Another landmine word in the English language. A corrupt word. You guys have got to get yourself a copy of the Black's Law Legal Dictionary and look up the meaning of these words. We're gonna drill down into the definition of the word represent. Let's dive into it. The word represent. Now, my favorite dictionary is the Black's Law 6th edition. And so in the 6th edition on page 1301, it says the definition of the word represent. Are you ready for this? To appear in the character of. To personate. What does personate mean? We'll get back to that one, okay? We'll get back to that word. But what you got to do is you have to highlight these words. When you look up a definition of a word and you come across another word, you have to highlight that. Stop, pause. Let's look up that word. Let's drill down and find out what it means. So we'll come back to that. Next, to exhibit, to expose before the eyes, to represent a thing, is to produce it publicly, to represent a thing. So you can only represent a thing? Is that what you're telling me, Mr. Attorney? No. Let that sink in a little bit. Think about that. That he can only represent a thing. That means he is unlawfully converting you into a thing to present you as a thing to the court. Now, let's look at the definition of the word thing. Let's drill down on that one. Things in the Black's Law edition, 6th edition, page 1479. The object of dominion or property. The object of dominion or property? So you mean to tell me that I come to you and I hire you as my attorney and you look at me as an object and you present me to the court as an object, as a thing? The object of a right. Whatever is regarded by law as the object over which one person exercises a right, and with reference to which another person lies under a duty. It may seem like there's enough light in this room, but where I'm looking at, it's a little bit dark, so I'm having a hard time reading this, so bear with me, guys. If you go down further, you can see it also means chattels, okay? It also means title deed. Well, that makes sense because your name, I told you guys in a previous video, your name is not your name. Your name on your birth certificate and your driver's license is an artificial construct. And it represents a title. It represent a deed. In fact, that deed was filed in the deeds of records. After you were born, the birth certificate was recorded. Anytime you want to get a copy of your birth certificate, you can go to the county recorder. And the county recorder is the recorder of deeds. And so your birth certificate represents a deed. So what they did is they deeded you. They basically monetized you. They basically turned you into chattel. They turned you into property. Now, I told you guys I'm going to prove to you that the word represent is synonymous with deception, fraud, harm, and counterfeit. Okay? Now, let's get back to represent. It says to personate. It says to personate. Now, let's go look up the word personate. You see, what you do is you got to drill down. You got to look these words up. So let's see what personate says. It says to assume the person or the character of another without his consent or knowledge in order to deceive others. And in such feigned character, we'll look up the definition of the word feigned character as well, and you will be shocked what it really means. To fraudulently do some act or gain some advantage to the harm or prejudice of the person counterfeited. Okay. To pass oneself off as another. Having a certain identity to represent a person. Well, we already know what a person is. It's an artificial construct and a trust or a corporation. To act as his substitute, to act. He's an actor. We're not making stuff up. You know, if you want to know truth in law, you go to the law, you look at the definitions of words in the legal dictionary. By the way, guys, the Black's Law Dictionary is the well-established and recognized dictionary that's used within the legal community by judges and attorneys. So don't let any attorney ever tell you that, oh, we don't care about definitions. You know, I've had discussions with attorneys where they try to, you know, pass it off as nothing, okay? None of us want any of those things to be done unto us. So when you enter into an attorney-client agreement, you have to make sure, and I'm going to just share with you guys an attorney-client agreement. Listen, it's okay to contract with the devil, nothing wrong, as long as the terms of that contract is in your favor and not in the attorney's favor. So if you want to hire an attorney to do services for you, to do paralegal work for you, or whatever, research or assist you, and hey, that's okay. But make sure that you are on top of the agreement. Remember, contract is law and law is contract. You've got to alter the contract. You've got to alter the agreement. Let the attorney present you with his attorney-client agreement, and then you take that agreement and you don't just hastily sign that. No, take it home, read it. And then what we do is we cross off or redefine some of the meanings of the words that we don't like. Now, I've had some fun with attorneys on this one. I've had some fun, and you can have some fun too. So when you encounter your attorney or you have an attorney that you've hired, why don't you ask him and say, do you know the true meaning and definition of the word represent? Because, you know, I hired you to represent me, but you never really explained to me, sat down with me and explained to me what that really means. Do you know the legal meaning and the definition of the word represent? Just let him answer that, okay? Let him answer that. Let that pause, let that sink in for a little bit. Remember, attorneys are not trained in law, they're trained in procedure. And so they don't know the law, they're incompetent. All of them are incompetent. They're a bunch of incompetent fools. So after you ask them that question, now when I deal with attorneys, I have no mercy on attorneys. I humiliate them, I destroy them, I trash them. Rightfully so, that's what they deserve, okay? Because they're all part of this club of corruption, the Bar Association, which is all Freemason Satanism, guys. It's all run by a corrupt, private interest group that does not have the people's interest at heart, okay? All they do is lie, cheat, and steal. Now, so after you ask the attorney that, then you can say, well, Mr. Attorney, it came to my attention when I looked up the definition that the word represent is synonymous with deception, fraud, doing harm, and counterfeit. Did you know that? Because if you don't know that, then that makes you incompetent. If you do know that, then that means that you're part of a criminal conspiracy to defraud me. Now, which is it? Is it your incompetence? I'm paying you $500-600 an hour and you are incompetent? Or you did know about it, but you didn't tell me about it. And that means that you entered me into an unconscionable agreement, okay? Now, any unconscionable agreement is considered null and void. Go look up in Google unconscionable agreements, and you're going to find that there's a reference on the US Code that defines unconscionable agreements. So since an attorney is supposedly schooled at law, he's supposed to know better. And he's supposed to know that this is an unconscionable agreement. Now, guys, let me give you an example of an unconscionable agreement. Let's say, for example, that you sign a mortgage agreement, and somewhere in that agreement it says that if you miss even one payment, that we, the bank, have the right to come and take your children. Would any parent in their right mind sign such an agreement? No, because it's unconscionable. Who would do that? And that's exactly what you've done in every single one of these attorney agreements that you've entered into, where you hired an attorney to represent you. You signed an unconscionable agreement. Well, guess what? Unconscionable agreements are null and void, so you can get out of that. You can demand your money back from the attorney. Well, good luck with that, okay? I'd make all kinds of threats. I tell them I'm going to report you to the bar. I'm going to, you deceived me, you defrauded me. I mean, I just spew the fire of God at them, right? And tell them that you are the low scum of the earth because you didn't tell me. You didn't tell me. You were supposed to know. You didn't tell me. How could any person with a right conscience agree to be defrauded and to be counterfeited? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I've never met an honest attorney. Never. It's not possible, because an attorney's first duty is to the court, not to the client. So if you're going to tell me that you're acting as an attorney, you're honest, okay, and you don't know about that, well, guess what? I don't buy that. So I also have an attorney fire letter, in which I present the attorney with this evidence in an exhibit and explain to him that you, Mr. Attorney, who is supposed to be schooled at law, I hired you and you told me that you were going to represent me, but you didn't tell me the meaning of the word represent, only to come to find out right now that in fact, I gave you permission to defraud me, to counterfeit me, to harm me. And act in such feigned character. And speaking of the word feigned character, we didn't cover that one. Just go to Google and type in feigned character definition. It says that it's a character that is not genuine or real. It's fictitious, okay? Pretend. And there's also a definition in the Merriam-Webster's dictionary. And Merriam says to give a false impression, to pretend. I'm not making this stuff up, guys. It's all out there. It's all for you to research. Just remember, again, what I said earlier. The English language is the most dialectic, corrupt language on the planet. You got to look up every word. If you are engaged in contracts, stop. Go through your contracts very carefully and read and look up the meaning and the definition of the words. Now, this is very important for those of you who interact or interface with attorneys, or even thinking about hiring an attorney, okay? Have you ever heard of corpus juris secundum? Corpus juris secundum is a legal encyclopedia, We're going to be looking at 7 CJS. CJS stands for Corpus Juris Secundum. So we're going to look at 7 CJS subsection 4, which deals with attorney-client relationship. Okay. Now, are you ready for this? It says, an attorney's first duty is to the courts and the public, and not to the client. Sorry, guys, I read that wrong. An attorney's first duty is to the court and the public, and then to the client. You know what? I think I could get myself some eyeglasses. Let's read that again. His first duty is to the court and the public, and not to the client. No, that can't be. That can't be. They made a mistake in this volume. That can't be. His first duty is to the courts and the public, and not to the client. No, that is a mistake. That has got to be a mistake. Maybe it's not. His first duty is to the courts and the public, and what? And not to the client? What? No. Wait a minute. I pay my attorney $500 and $600 an hour, sometimes $1,000 an hour, only to find out that his first duty is not to me? No. I'm going to call my attorney. That's ridiculous. I hope you guys like my little satire here, but you know what? We can have a little comedy about it, but it's true. An attorney's first duty is to the court and to the public, and not to you, the client. So, in fact, he's acting as a double agent. How about that? Little scoundrel, a little dirty, rotten scoundrel. Now, guys, if you want to have a little bit of fun, okay, why don't you, for those of you who have an attorney, have ever called up or ever had an attorney, call them up and say, hey, Mr. Attorney, go to Corpus Juris Secundum 7 CJS subsection 4 and explain to me if your first duty is to me, or is it to the court? Let's just see what he says, okay? Now it's going to get even more interesting, because we're going to be dissecting another word. I may do this in another episode, or maybe part of this episode, we'll see. But firstly, I just want you guys to understand what you're dealing with when you're hiring an attorney, okay? You're hiring somebody that doesn't have your best interest at heart. So you're going to keep that in mind. Now we're going to be dealing with the other part of Corpus Juris Secundum that relates to attorneys, and that's called 7 CJS subsection 2 through 3. You guys ready for this one? Now it says that clients are also called wards of the court in regard to their relationship with their attorneys. Ward of the court? Oh, that's interesting. I wonder what a ward is. Well, let's look the word up, I guess. All right. What is a ward of the court? It is an infant and a person of unsound mind, placed by the court under the care of a guardian. So what they've done is they've converted you into a ward of the court. They've turned you into an infant and a person of unsound mind. Wow. Did you know that's what they're doing to you? Okay. What these people are doing is they're unlawfully converting you into fictions. That's what they're doing. It is a clearly established principle of law that an attorney must represent a corporation. It being incorporeal and a creature of the law, an attorney representing an artificial entity must appear with a corporate charter and law in his hand. You see, an attorney can only represent the dead, civilly dead persons. And this is why he has to convert you into a thing. But as long as you guys clearly see here from the legal encyclopedia, twofold: an attorney's first duty is to the court, not to the client. And when you hire an attorney, you become a ward of the court. And what is a ward of the court? As an infant and a person of unsound mind. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. So next time you're thinking about hiring an attorney, what I would do if I were you is I'd make up a little agreement, an ovation, or an amendment to the attorney's agreement and puts something down there to the effect and says, Mr. Attorney, you must agree, according to the legal definition of the word represent, that you must agree that you're going to defend me and defend my interests only, and not to represent me because of the legal definition of the word represent. Or you can have a section where you actually redefine the word represent. For the purposes of this contract, the word represent shall mean that the attorney will serve the client's interest and the client's interest only, and that his first duty will be to the client and not to the court or to the public. You could do that, okay? And that the attorney must agree that he's going to uphold your God-given rights. That the attorney must agree, according to corpus juris secundum, that I will not be considered, me the client will not be considered as a ward of the court, or will not be considered as a thing. That you're only there to defend me, to defend my interests, and to search for justice, and to defend and protect my God-given rights. Something to that effect. I mean, you could do all kinds of things with that, but I'm just giving you guys some ideas on what you should be doing. Joe, don't just sign the dotted line, guys. Don't just sign the dotted line, okay? And do what Esau did with his brother Jacob. So you guys all know the story of Jacob and Esau. Jacob made him an offer. He said, sure, you can have a bowl of lentil soup in exchange for your birthright. And, you know, birthright was actually the blessings. Every one of us, okay, did not lose our rights. We did not, our rights was not taken from us. You have to understand that your rights was waived through contract. You always entered into unconscionable contracts and agreements with the bank, with your mortgage company, with attorneys, and little did you know, and that's the other point that I want to mention, is that did you know that when you hire an attorney to represent you, that you are actually giving an attorney a power of attorney over you, okay? You don't ever want to give anybody a power of attorney. If you're going to give somebody power of attorney, you always want to add the word limited in front of the word power of attorney. So I limit your power. This is a limited power of attorney that gives you the right to make this medical decisions for me in case something happens to me. Or I give you a limited power of attorney to pick up my mail, but you don't have a power of attorney to open my mail, or you don't have access to my banking information. Your power is limited only to X, Y, and Z. You decide that. So what you're doing is when you're hiring an attorney, you're giving him a power of attorney. So this is one of the other terms that I stipulate in the attorney-client agreement, is that you must agree that you, and no consent is given to you to gain my power of attorney. Well, I will tell you guys this, I don't ever, to this day, have ever had an attorney that's been willing to sign such an agreement, because they need that power of attorney to screw you over, to present you as a thing to the court. All right, guys, I hope this information was helpful, and more very valuable content is about to be posted, so stay tuned, and please do me a favor, give this video a like and subscribe.
That you hear like it echo in your head, there's a strange vibration rising out from the heart to